Alrighty, so I have 1 o'clock on my time here, so we'll get started. So welcome everyone to our presentation today with Tyler, our placement student here at Near North Palliative Care Network. And he'll be talking to you today about traditional firekeeping. So Tyler, I will give you the floor and just let me know when to flip the slides and everything there. And I'm not sure if you're talking, but you're muted right now.
Yes, I was. It seems to be a recurring trend. Yes, today we're talking about traditional firekeeping. You can move on to the next slide because it's going to be a little bit about me, and that's something that we like to talk about when we talk about anything in our culture is context. So who I am, where I come from, and I like to put a little piece there for the people who taught me throughout the years. So my name is Tyler Sarazin-Cote. I was born and raised in North Bay area, specifically out in Commanda. I'm an Algonquin of Pikwakanagan, which is near Ottawa. Historically, my family kind of moved along the Ottawa River, and I'm a Martin clan. So yeah, John, Peter, Perry, Tashina, Kirby, and Jerry. These are people that are in this area in particular. I don't go traveling a whole lot for teaching. So when I was doing a little bit of research for this, I found there was a lot of similarities between what we practice here and what's practiced not only across the cultures in North America, but also even further. And my eyes really opened. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, next slide. This is kind of what I was talking about. So the historical context is really important as well when understanding why fire is important for grief in general. It's also important for life. It hasn't necessarily been accessible to everybody throughout history. It hasn't really been kind, and it's also been really feared and held in awe. A lot of that was due to the destruction that was caused due to flash fires and stuff like that. But because that was such an important thing that was held in esteem, it was connected to a lot of deities. A couple of those that I listed here were goddess Vesta, who is the goddess of life and the sun, and the Irish goddess Brigid. She was also said to have invented keening, which is wailing and grief. This video really explains what a sacred fire is in my culture and what I practice. I feel like I couldn't have said it better when it comes to an accurate description.
Some will say that the sacred fire is a doorway. It's for us to communicate and pass things on to the spirit world, to our ancestors in the spirit world. And sacred fire is also it's the heart of our communities. And the role of the firekeeper is to tend to the sacred fire, to get it going, and then to tend to it for the usually during the duration of a ceremony. Every community is different, but usually 4 days is pretty common. Or if we have a ceremony like a sweat lodge, a sundance, it'll burn for the entire duration of the ceremonies. If you've never been to a ceremony before and you walk up and you see people wearing traditional regalia around a fire, you maybe see a pipe, there's a drum there, ladies are wearing skirts with ribbons on it, you pretty much can be assured that that's a sacred fire. Let them know, hey, I'm new, I don't want to make a mistake. And this goes a long way. As you make a little mistake, no big deal, they'll let you know. The only thing that goes into the sacred fire is offering So like tobacco, sometimes we'll make a spirit dish, a plate to feed our ancestors. Sometimes that goes in there. Cloth, and something, things that we want our ancestors to have on the other side in the spirit world. And so when they go up to the sacred fire and they offer that smoke goes up, and it's up to Creator Geshe Manito to answer those prayers or to not. For me, that's it's comfort, it's warmth, it's protection, and it's family. And that's what I've always liked the most about a sacred fire, is just having that chance to listen to the old people share teachings.
Oops. Okay.
Yeah, so typically fire is present at the majority of ceremonies that I've been at, as well as I hear a lot of stories of a lot of the ceremonies that I haven't been at where fire is present. It's just a really common thing to have around. A lot of that has to do with what he was explaining there, was that doorway that opens. And when you make that offering, that's the place to do it. So this is also another explanation here. A lot of people practice that 4 days for the 4 directions. There's 4 journeys that you take, and I put down there's 4 bundles as well. During those 4 days, there are 4 different bundles prepared with different offerings to help them on that journey. And during that time, it's that the fire is a beacon that calls in their ancestors, the spirit that's traveling, and it's going to help them on that journey. So that is specific to the fire that is lit at the end of life. During other ceremonies, that's a little bit different, although the protocols and the practices are still the same. So for Sweat Lodge, what he was saying, that if you've never been to one, a Sweat Lodge is essentially there are grandfathers, certain rocks that are placed into a fire to heat up for a period of time, and then they're put into a lodge. And that is splashed with medicine and water, and it's a certain type of release that you get from that. What he was also saying about the Sundance, that is another different type of practice that is used specific for grief. During that 5-day period, the fire can't go out, but those people that are there dancing, they're there for a reason, each that's pretty unique to themselves. And that's a really intense one. I don't think I'm qualified to speak too much about either of those. I'm not a conductor. I'm just I'm a helper. So I'm still trying my best to learn. It's a lot, but each ceremony is pretty specific to overcoming loss, or at least coming to terms with it. It's important that people do that in our culture. There's a sense of community that builds, and as a firekeeper, it's kind of our role to make sure that when those ceremonies are happening, that the fire is kept, but also anyone that comes there isn't alone. They can get pretty intense sometimes. But yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, so this is just a basic protocol. I didn't list all of it. it looks like a lot, but a lot of it is just basic respect. It can be tough sometimes, like alcohol and drug-free, minimum 4 days in advance. That's more specific to like the people that are working there. As a firekeeper, that they would be working there, so that's important that they remain sound of mind and sound of body while they are able. It's if you're going into something like a sweat lodge or a Sundance, you also don't want those toxins in your body while you're going through something that that physically taxing. It can be damaging. So you have to be careful with alcohol and drugs around ceremony. That being said, there are a lot of ceremonies where, like, as long as you're not showing up intoxicated, it is basic respect. But other than that, basically what you need to know is you need to ask if you don't understand, and usually there's going to be someone there to help you. As a firekeeper, you can usually ask them because they're always paying attention. But there's also a conductor of sorts. If you see someone with a pipe, you can ask them because they would probably know as well. But yeah, we can move on to the next slide. So, as mentioned before, a firekeeper's role is to keep the fire going. Sometimes that is 1 day, sometimes that is an hour, sometimes that is 5 days. And while it sounds easy, sometimes it can get really challenging, especially in the sense that like weather can be pretty unpredictable at times. And if you have to keep it going for 5 days and 3 of those days are pouring rain, it can get pretty tough. Although other duties are pretty basic, just making sure the grounds are respected. And this link actually more specific to the historical role that firekeepers would play especially in the North American region. I'm not gonna go through the entire link. It's just it talks about how we're bringing a specific Australian traditional firekeeper over to help revitalize that role in traditional burning. So something firekeepers used to do was clear out a lot of the underbrush so that those flash fires that used to happen weren't as damaging and were more in control by clearing out all the dead and dying and invasive species. So traditionally, the firekeepers would actually have a much larger role to play in the community as well as keeping the fires. Yeah, we can move on to the next slide. And these are just some of the resources I used. There was definitely a lot more that I looked at just to read and learn more. What I found very interesting about all these is none of them are from my teachers. So I had to put a special thanks there again because John Cobb, Peter Bocage, Barry McLeod, Sheena Sarazin, Kirby Mansko, and Jeremy Combe. These people definitely have carried me through a lot of really tough times, and they taught me a lot about firekeeping in general. And with this link, this is a traveling song that has been modified from the original version, but in part it has been just adapted to be able to be sung all over the world. I believe it was the Gathering of Nations that actually modified this song for use in other places with other Indigenous cultures.
Awesome. I will play it here. Awesome.
I was asking Tashina about that because it's not the version she sings. And yeah, we got a good chuckle out of it because she told me a story of how she figured out that it was all over the world. Yeah, Indigenous cultures from all over have been singing that versions of that for a little while now. So it's really cool to see how it just like went from one traveling song to adapted all over the world. It was, yeah. I didn't know that. She blew my mind and she was just laughing at me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for sharing with us and to all the teachers as well, for teaching you, to teach us. It was very informative and a great presentation. So thank you. Is it okay if I open it up to questions if anyone has some?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, if you have a question, you can either raise your virtual hand or just type it in the chat. I can start us off with a question, Tyler. So you were saying that a ceremony can last, up to 5 days, and the fire would have to be kept for up to 5 days. So is there different fire keepers throughout that whole ceremony? Like, is it like a 24-hour, 5-day kind of thing, or?
Ideally, there are more than one. They would have shifts so as not to like go through so much fatigue.
Yeah.
Although sometimes that's just not available. So
right.
It's kind of their role to adapt as well.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So an easy example was like at the Sundance that I was helping out at for a good chunk of the time. I was the only firekeeper available. There were families and other people there that were available, but no one stepped up to help.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up doing 4 out of the 5 days, and it was actually a 13-year-old boy
Oh,
that stepped
wow.
up, and he offered to give me a rest. So I was really thankful. And
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, the sun is just coming in
yeah.
my window here. Yeah, that's because I can imagine it's quite emotionally and physically tiring for sure. So, well,
Different areas practice different things. So sometimes you're supposed to, I guess, be focused in thought and meditate and pray the entire time and focus only on the fire. Other places, what I was taught was you're supposed to take care of the emotional safety of those around you.
yeah.
So if someone's struggling, well, you're also there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So I don't see any questions in the chat, but if anyone has questions, they can always email me or call our office at Near North, and we'd be happy to pass on questions to Tyler. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find it for you. But thank you again, Tyler, and thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a good rest of your day.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.